Myra Hindley, an English serial killer born in 1942, became one of the most reviled figures in British history for her role in the Moor's murders. Alongside her boyfriend Ian Brady, she abducted, tortured, raped, and murdered 5 children and teenagers: Pauline Reed, John Kilbride, Keith Bennett, Leslie and Downey, and Edward Evans, between 1963 and 1965 in Greater Manchester. At least 4 victims were sexually assaulted, their bodies buried on the desolate Saddleworth Moor. In this documentary, we dissect Hindley's crimes through the lens of psychology and psychoanalysis, exploring the mind of a woman dubbed the most evil in Britain. Why Myra Hindley? Her crimes aren't just horrifying, they're a psychological enigma. How does a woman, expected to nurture, become a predator who lures children to their deaths? Her partnership with Brady, her active role in torture, and her chilling lack of remorse make her a unique case for analysis. Picture this: July 12, 1963, Gorton, Manchester. 16-year-old Pauline Reed walks to a disco, her pink party dress swaying. Hindley, behind the wheel of a van, offers her a lift, a smile masking her intent. Minutes later, on Saddleworth Moor, Brady rapes and slashes Pauline's throat, blood soaking the earth as Hindley watches. Or December 26, 1964, 10-year-old Leslie and Downey, snatched from a fairground, screams as Hindley and Brady record her torture, her pleas drowned by Christmas music. These acts, calculated, sadistic, and documented, reveal a mind that psychology must unravel. Let's start at the root, where darkness takes hold. Myra Hindley was born on July 23, 1942, in Crumpsall, Manchester, to Bob and Hetty Hindley, a working-class couple struggling to make ends meet. Her father, a paratrooper during World War II, was absent for her first 3 years, leaving Hetty to cope alone. When Bob returned, their home became a pressure cooker of violence and poverty. Psychoanalysis points to attachment theory. A child's bond to caregivers shapes their emotional core. Hindley's bond was fractured. Sent to live with her grandmother at age 4 after her sister Maureen's birth, she felt rejected, an outsider in her own family. Her father's beatings meant to toughen her, taught her that violence was power. At 8, after a bully clawed her face, Bob screamed at her to fight back. She did, punching the boy to the ground, later writing in her diary, "At 8 years old, I'd scored my first victory." This wasn't just a kid scrap. It was a seed of conduct disorder, a pattern of aggression and rule-breaking that can evolve into something far darker. Hindley's adolescence was unremarkable on the surface. She was a tomboy, average at school, fond of Beatrix Potter and rounders. But friends noticed a cold streak. She had no empathy for anybody else, one recalled, per Crime Plus Investigation UK. She babysat local kids, earning trust, but her inner world was shifting. At 18, she joined Millward's merchandising as a typist, where she met Ian Brady, a 23-year-old stock clerk with fascination for Nietzsche, Nazism, and sadism. Their meeting in 1961 was a spark in a powder keg. Psychoanalytically, Brady became Hindley's object of fixation, a charismatic figure who filled the void of her loveless childhood. She wrote to a friend about being drugged by Brady, only to ask her to destroy the letter, a sign of her growing obsession. Psychology would call this codependency, where one partner surrenders their identity to another's dominance. Brady's influence was total. He convinced her God didn't exist, dressed her in risque leather and boots, and introduced her to violent sexual fantasies. Why did Hindley turn to murder? Psychology suggests a mix of psychopathy and malignant narcissism. Psychopathy, marked by a lack of empathy and thrill-seeking, explains her ability to torture without remorse. Narcissism fueled her need for Brady's approval, making her complicit in his sadistic vision. Their relationship was a folie à deux, a shared psychosis where two people amplify each other's delusions. Brady wanted to commit the perfect murder. Hindley, enthralled, agreed to help. Their victims, children aged 10 to 17, were chosen for vulnerability and symbolism. Children represented innocence, something Hindley and Brady despised, perhaps a projection of their own lost childhoods. Psychoanalysis might argue Hindley was regressing, reliving her own trauma by dominating those weaker than her, just as her father had dominated her. The murders were meticulously planned, their execution horrifying. Hindley's role was often the lure, using her femininity to gain trust. On July 12, 1963, she persuaded Pauline Reed, a neighbor, to help her find a lost glove on Saddleworth Moor. Brady followed on his motorbike. Once isolated, he raped Pauline, beat her with a shovel, and slashed her throat so deeply it nearly decapitated her. Hindley watched, later joking with Brady about the mess, per criminologist David Holmes. For months later, 12-year-old John Kilbride was lured from a market with the same glove ruse. Brady raped and strangled him, burying him in a shallow grave. Hindley drove the van, unfazed. Keith Bennett, 12, was abducted in June 1964, raped and strangled, his body still missing, a torment for his mother, Winnie Johnson, who died in 2012 without closure. The murder of Leslie and Downey was the most chilling. On Boxing Day 1964, Hindley lured the 10-year-old from a fairground to their Hattersley home. There, Brady raped and tortured her, forcing her to pose for pornographic photos. Hindley recorded 16 minutes of Leslie's screams, her voice begging, "Please let me go," as the little drummer boy played in the background. The tape, played at their 1966 trial, reduced jurors to tears, per The Guardian. Hindley's voice is audible, ordering Leslie to comply. She later claimed she was in the car, but the tape proves otherwise. Leslie was strangled or suffocated, her body buried naked except for shoes and socks. The final victim, Edward Evans, 17, was killed on October 6, 1965. Brady lured him to their home, where Hindley's brother-in-law, David Smith, watched Brady bludgeon Evans 14 times with an axe and strangle him with an electrical cord. Hindley made tea afterward, laughing about Evans' expression, per Crime Plus Investigation UK. Psychologically, Hindley's actions point to sexual sadism disorder, where inflicting pain fuels arousal. The recordings and photos suggest a need to relive the act, a hallmark of sadistic fantasy. Her laughter and casual demeanor post-murder reflect emotional detachment, a core trait of psychopathy. Psychoanalytically, her participation was a transference of her father's violence. She became the aggressor, wielding power she'd never had. Brady's dominance fed her submissive masochism, where enduring his abuse bonded her to his sadism. Their choice of Saddleworth Moor, bleak, isolated, mirrored their inner desolation, a stage for their depravity. How did they get caught? David Smith was the key. Horrified by Evans' murder, he told his wife, Maureen, Hindley's sister, who alerted police on October 7, 1965. Officers found Evans' body wrapped in a sheet at Brady's home, arresting him immediately. Hindley, initially free, was arrested 4 days later after police found a notebook in her car detailing Evans' murder, per biography.com. A search uncovered a suitcase at Manchester Central Station containing photos of Leslie and a tape of her torture. Hindley's mugshot, bleached blonde hair, defiant stare, became iconic, dubbed Medusa-like by author Helen Birch for its chilling effect. At their trial, starting April 19, 1966, Brady and Hindley pleaded not guilty. Brady was convicted of 3 murders, Hindley of 2 and accessory, to Kilbride's murder. Both received life sentences, as the death penalty had been abolished. Hindley's lack of remorse, described as bold and brassy by police, cemented her infamy. In 1985, Brady confessed to killing Pauline Reed and Keith Bennett, leading to Pauline's body being found in 1987. Hindley admitted her role in all 5 murders in 1987, claiming Brady coerced her, but a 2002 psychological assessment revealed she was more culpable because she knew right from wrong. Per all that's interesting. She died of bronchial pneumonia in 2002 at 60. After 36 years in prison, her parole bids rejected amid public outrage. Philosophically, Hindley's life embodies existential nihilism. She rejected morality, embracing Brady's worldview that nothing mattered but their desires. Her crimes were rebellion against a society she felt had failed her, a father who beat her, a mother who sent her away, a world that offered no meaning. Yet her end, alone vilified, her Catholic faith a hollow comfort, reveals the absurdity of her choices. As Camus might argue, she sought purpose in destruction, only to find a void staring back. Her mugshot, plastered across tabloids, wasn't a badge of power, but a mirror of her emptiness. A woman who traded humanity for infamy and lost both. This is Myra Hindley's horror. A woman who chose to become a monster, her laughter echoing over Saddleworth Moor. Psychology shows us a mind shaped by trauma, twisted by obsession, and unbound by conscience. Psychoanalysis reveals a soul trapped in its own abyss, punishing children for her pain. As you sit there, heart pounding, imagine her voice on that tape, Leslie's screams fading into silence. She's gone, but her shadow lingers, a warning that evil doesn't always hide. It can smile, offer a ride, and bury you in the dark.